Hello and welcome back to Diplomacy and Discourse. I'm your host AR and I'm genuinely glad you're here. Today we're taking on a big global topic, but we're going to talk about it like regular people, clearly, practically, and with real examples. Our focus is the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. You've probably heard the term in speeches and headlines, but for many listeners, the SDGs can feel distant. Important, yes, but also vague, like a long checklist that belongs to diplomats, not everyday citizens. So this episode is designed to change that. We are doing a 2026 mid-decade reality check, where the world stands, what has improved, what has worsened, and what practical actions are actually making a difference. If the SDGs were a road trip to 2030, we're now at a halfway point. The map is clear, but traffic is heavy, weather is rough, and we're behind schedule. We can still get there, but only if we drive differently from here onward. Let's start with the basics. The SDGs are 17 global goals adopted by all UN member states in 2015. They cover poverty, hunger, health, education, clean water, clean energy, jobs, infrastructure, inequality, climate, biodiversity, peace, and partnerships. In plain language, the SDGs are a shared survival and prosperity plan for humanity. And here's the most important design feature. The goals are interconnected. No electricity means no refrigeration for vaccines. No stable income means children leave school. No clean water means more disease and more unpaid care burden, often on women and girls. No climate resilience means one flood can erase years of progress. So the SDGs are not 17 isolated tasks. They are one system with feedback loops. The world has entered what many call a polycrisis, multiple shocks happening at once and feeding each other. Pandemic after effects, debt pressure, high living costs, conflict, and climate extremes have collectively slowed or reversed progress in key areas. So here are concrete data points. Around 712 million people were in extreme poverty in 2022. About 590 million people are still projected to be in extreme poverty by 2030 if trends do not accelerate. In 2024, roughly 1 in 12 people globally faced hunger. Around 2.3 billion people experienced moderate or severe food insecurity. 4.5 billion people lacked access to essential health services in 2021. 272 million children and youth were out of school in 2023. 2.1 billion people lacked safely managed drinking water in 2024. 666 million people still lacked electricity access in 2023. These are not abstract numbers, and they represent daily trade-offs in real homes: medicine or food, school fees or electricity, clean water, or long, dangerous walks. But there is another side to the story. 2026 is also showing real momentum in selected areas: stronger local city policies, better use of digital infrastructure, practical AI applications in energy systems, and stricter sustainability accountability in parts of the corporate world. So this is not a collapse narrative. It is a speed and scale narrative. Let's walk through the goals in human terms and with real examples. People goals: poverty, hunger, health, education, inequality. Poverty first. Global social protection coverage has risen to about 52.4%, which is progress, but that still leaves 3.8 billion people without even one social protection benefit. The inequality here is severe. High-income countries approach universal coverage, while low-income countries remain near 10%. Imagine two people crossing the same tightrope. One has a safety net below, the other does not. Economic shocks affect both, but outcomes are radically different. Now, hunger. The paradox is sharp. Huge food waste and persistent hunger at the same time. Around 1.05 billion tons of food were wasted in 2022, while millions remained undernourished. That's not a food production problem alone. It's a systems problem. Storage, distribution, affordability, and behavior. One promising development in 2026 is the FAO-IAEA use of scientific methods to improve crop resilience, reduce pest losses, and strengthen food safety. It sounds technical, but the impact is practical. More reliable harvests and safer food systems in climate-stressed regions. Now, health gives us mixed signals. Under 5 mortality has declined significantly over 2 decades, but maternal mortality is still not dropping fast enough. Tuberculosis diagnosis rose to 8.2 million in 2023, the highest since the 1990s, and non-communicable diseases continue to kill millions under age 70. Health systems are being stretched from both directions: infectious disease risk and chronic disease burden, all while the world faces a projected shortage of 11.1 million health workers by 2030. Education remains one of the clearest warning lights. Out-of-school numbers are high. Learning recovery is uneven. In many least developed countries, schools still lack electricity, sanitation, and digital tools. But 2026 also offers practical innovation. UNOOSA supported initiatives and related satellite-enabled programs are helping remote communities connect to educational content, while technical workshops, such as UN-linked space science capacity events, support skills development. In simple terms, where roads and cables lag, satellite connectivity can still keep learning alive. Inequality, SDG number 10, is the thread running through all of this. The pandemic period drove the sharpest rise in global inequality in decades. Women, children, displaced populations, people with disabilities, and marginalized communities continue to face disproportionate setbacks. So when we discuss progress, we need one constant question: progress for whom? Now let's talk about systems that shape everyday life: water, energy, jobs, infrastructure, and cities. Water and sanitation are foundational. In 2024, safely managed drinking water reached about 74% globally. That sounds high until you remember it means 2.1 billion people remain without it. Safely managed sanitation was around 58%, leaving 3.4 billion behind. To hit 2030 targets, progress must accelerate dramatically, roughly 6-fold for drinking water and 5-fold for sanitation. 2026 will be pivotal for SDG number 6 because of the scheduled UN Water Conference and the SDG 6 Synthesis Report review process. These moments matter, but conference outcomes only matter if translated into financing, local infrastructure projects, and governance capacity. Energy is similar. Progress with a stubborn last mile. Electricity access has reached about 92% globally, yet 666 million people remain underserved, most in sub-Saharan Africa. Clean cooking remains a huge challenge, with about 2.1 billion people relying on polluting fuels. Here, decentralized energy systems, mini-grids, and off-grid solar are increasingly central. AI tools are also being used for renewable forecasting and grid management. Think of AI in energy as traffic navigation. It helps planners predict demand, reduce bottlenecks, and route power more efficiently. Jobs and economic growth, SDG number 8, show why social outcomes can't be separated from labor conditions. Global growth remains modest. Informal employment is still near 58% of the workforce. Youth exclusion is persistent. Around 1 in 5 young people are not in employment, education, or training, with young women disproportionately affected. Growth without inclusion is fragile growth. Industry and infrastructure, SDG number 9, show both promise and risk. Mobile broadband now reaches most of the world population, and 5G expansion has been rapid, yet access gaps remain in least developed countries. Meanwhile, industrial and fuel-related CO2 emissions reached new highs in 2024. So yes, digital infrastructure is expanding, but decarbonization is not yet keeping pace. Cities, SDG number 11, offer both warning and opportunity. Urban populations in informal settlements remain very high, and sprawl often outpaces planned densification. But city governance can move quickly when leaders act. London and New York have advanced congestion pricing frameworks to reduce traffic and emissions. Curitiba continues to be a practical model for integrated public transport and urban planning. These are not perfect systems, but they show how local policy can create measurable quality of life improvements. Now to the planet goals: climate, consumption, oceans, and biodiversity. Climate action is the defining pressure test. Global warming likely crossed the 1.5 degrees Celsius level in 2024 on an annual basis, at around 1.55 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Emissions remain too high, and adaptation needs are growing rapidly. At COP29, countries agreed on a new climate finance benchmark of at least $300 billion per year by 2035. That is significant politically, but delivery and fair distribution are what count. One bright spot is adaptation infrastructure, like early warnings for all. Early warnings do not stop storms, but they save lives when linked with local response systems. On SDG 12, consumption and production, the world is still on overuse mode. Material extraction and waste continue rising. E-waste is at record levels, while safe management rates remain low. Fossil fuel subsidies, although lower than the 2022 peak, remain far above pre-pandemic levels. This is where regulation is becoming a real force. In 2026, EU frameworks such as the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive and the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive are pushing companies to provide traceable ESG evidence and supply chain accountability. Combined with anti-greenwashing rules, this shifts sustainability from marketing language toward auditable practice. For listeners, here's why that matters. When sustainability claims are verifiable, citizens, investors, and regulators can compare promises against performance. Life below water, SDG 14, remains under strain. Marine plastic pollution is projected to worsen sharply without intervention. Overfishing continues to threaten both ecosystems and coastal livelihoods. The High Seas Treaty created diplomatic momentum, but implementation timelines and enforcement mechanisms are now the key test. Life on land, SDG 15, faces similar pressure. Forest loss rates have slowed compared to past decades, but remain far too high. Land degradation and biodiversity decline continue, and the red list trajectory remains concerning. The coming Montreal Global Diversity Framework offers a path with concrete 2030 targets, but progress depends on financing and integration into national planning. Let's do a quick but concrete run through all 17 goals so listeners can hear the full picture in one sequence. SDG 1, No Poverty. Poverty reduction progress was interrupted by crisis stacking, and social protection remains deeply unequal across income groups. SDG 2, Zero Hunger. Food insecurity remains elevated even as food waste stays massive, showing that production alone cannot solve access and affordability. SDG 3, Good Health and Well-Being. Child survival has improved long-term, but TB pressure, maternal health gaps, and worker shortages remain serious constraints. SDG 4, Quality Education. Enrollment gaps and learning losses persist, but digital and satellite-enabled delivery models are creating new pathways for remote learners. SDG 5, Gender Equality. Women and girls continue to bear disproportionate burdens in care, income insecurity, and crisis exposure, especially where services are weak. SDG 6, Clean Water and Sanitation. Progress exists, but billions remain without safe services, and acceleration rates must increase dramatically before 2030. SDG 7, Affordable and Clean Energy. Access has expanded, yet clean cooking and last-mile electrification remain urgent, especially across sub-Saharan Africa. SDG 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth. Growth is slower. Labor informality remains high, and youth exclusion continues to threaten long-term social stability. SDG 9, Industry, Innovation, and Infrastructure. Connectivity is improving, but industrial decarbonization and equitable infrastructure access are still lagging behind need. SDG 10, Reduced Inequalities. Income and opportunity gaps widened in recent years, reinforcing the need for inclusive policy design and social floors. SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities. City-level mobility and planning reforms show promise, but informal settlements and service gaps still affect large populations. SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. Circularity is gaining policy traction, yet extraction, waste, and high-emission consumption patterns remain dominant. SDG 13, climate action. Warming trends and emissions show urgency, while adaptation systems and financing delivery now define practical resilience outcomes. SDG 14, life below water. Marine ecosystems remain under pressure from plastics and overfishing, despite growing momentum in international ocean governance. SDG 15, life on land. Biodiversity and land degradation trends remain alarming, demanding stronger funding, restoration programs, and enforcement capacity. SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Conflict and weak institutions continue to undermine service delivery as well as trust and long-term development continuity. Lastly, SDG 17, partnerships for the goals. None of the above scales without credible partnerships, predictable finance, shared data, and cross-border policy cooperation. Let's make this extra practical with 10 rapid observations you can carry with you. 1. Poverty reduction is no longer linear. One shock can reverse years of progress. 2. Hunger persists even when total food supply is sufficient. 3. Health progress can coexist with dangerous system fragility. 4. School access is not the same as quality learning. 5. Water stress is now a governance and security issue, not just an environmental one. 6. Electricity access without clean cooking still leaves major health burdens. 7. Informal work at this scale means millions remain one crisis away from hardship. 8. Cities are where SDG success or failure will be felt fastest. 9. Climate adaptation is now as urgent as mitigation. Lastly, number 10, data transparency is becoming the new accountability backbone. One challenge in SDG work is language. Too often, sustainability is communicated in dense technical terms. That can unintentionally exclude the very people whose participation is needed most. So here's a simple communication test. If a policy cannot be explained to a family in 2 minutes, we have not translated it well enough. Examples: resilient infrastructure means roads, schools, and clinics that still function after floods. Social protection floors means families can still buy essentials when income collapses. Circular economy means designing products so materials are reused instead of dumped. Just transition means climate policy that does not abandon workers and low-income communities. Clear language creates trust. Trust creates participation. Participation creates implementation pressure. So, what should governments, businesses, and civil society prioritize now? First, protect the basics: food systems, primary care, water and sanitation, education continuity, and social protection. Second, invest where co-benefits are strongest: clean energy access, public transport, efficient buildings, and waste reduction. Third, improve financial integrity, deliver climate finance commitments, strengthen debt-sensitive development support, and reduce fragmentation in aid and investment flows. Fourth, place equity at the center, especially for youth, women, and marginalized groups. Fifth, build better local data systems, because you cannot manage what you cannot measure. Sixth, align technology with governance. AI and digital tools should serve public goals, not replace accountability. Lastly, the seventh, strengthen municipal capacity. Many SDGs are won or lost at city and district levels. Before we close, let's anchor all this in 3 concrete storylines from the 2026 landscape. Storyline 1. The water stress reality. Seasonal scarcity has become structural scarcity. When a community experiences severe water shortages for months each year, it is not only an SDG number 6 challenge. It becomes an SDG 3 health challenge, an SDG 4 school attendance challenge, and an SDG 8 livelihoods challenge. This is why 2026 water governance discussions matter. If financing and social delivery are delayed, the costs multiply across sectors. Storyline 2. The urban policy advantage. Cities like London and New York show that transport policy can quickly reduce congestion and emissions while improving public space quality. Curitiba's long-standing integrated planning approach continues to show that bus systems, land use, and service access should be designed together, not separately. The lesson is transferable. Urban SDG progress is most effective when mobility, housing, and air quality goals are coordinated. Storyline 3. The accountability shift in business. In 2026, large firms operating in Europe face stricter expectations under CSRD, CSDDD, and anti-greenwashing rules. This changes boardroom behavior. Companies now need auditable data on emissions, labor risks, and supply chain impacts, not only polished sustainability narratives. If implemented well, this can improve outcomes tied to SDG 8, SDG 10, SDG 12, and SDG 13. These 3 storylines show the same principle. Progress happens when policy, data, and implementation are aligned, not perfectly, but consistently. So let's end with this. The SDGs are still the best shared map the world has for a fair and livable future. But a map is not movement. Movement requires political courage, institutional competence, and citizen engagement. 2026 gives us enough evidence to stop pretending the current pace is sufficient. It also gives us enough examples to know practical progress is possible. So the core question is no longer, do we know what to do? It is, will we do it at the speed this decade demands? If you remember one idea from today, let it be this. Sustainable development is not a distant UN agenda. It is the architecture of daily life. Water in the tap, food on the table, clean air in the lungs, safety in the neighborhood, and opportunity in the next generation. Thank you for being part of this conversation. If this episode helped, share it with one person, leave a review, and send your reflections. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep choosing the future on purpose.